It is me, Mike Russell, live, and I'm in the 1980s. Oh, crazy stuff. Yes, it's good to have you there. Brian Sweeney in the house. You can see right now above me, I've got the chat already going. If you're at youtube.com/musicradiocreative, you'll appear on the screen just looking up at your comments now. Peter Young, hi Mike, looking forward to the show. Tony Farrell's there. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are right now. Diego, hi, greetings from a radio DJ in Belgium. Happy to join the show. Lord of the Remix is there. Anthony Hall as well. Uptake 2. Roger Michael. Been a customer of yours for years. Big fan. Loving the streams. Thank you. Don LeBlanc is there. Wow. Back to the Centrillium Cool Edit days. Well, we're going even further back, Don LeBlanc, than Centrillium 1990s Cool Edit Pro. We are going to the 1980s today. I'm super excited about this. So hello to you first and foremost if you're watching live right now. And hello to you secondly if you just caught up on the replay and you're about to watch this hour of power. Yes, I'm going to use cheesy phrases from the 80s. The hour of power, live from the top of the tower, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get stuck into this audio production very soon. But as you can see, I'm going retro with the tapes spinning around behind me. Hands up in the chat, who remembers a cassette tape? Who actually remembers a cassette tape? And who knows what a pencil is for when you have a cassette? What is a pencil for when you have a cassette? Let me know in the comments. So as you can see, the chat is appearing right there from YouTube. We're also over on Facebook Live as well. So it's really, really good to be there. Feel free to comment away if you are watching right now on Facebook Live at facebook.com/musicradiocreative. Also on Periscope. You'll find us over at twitch.tv/musicradiocreative. And today I'm going to submit it to Apple Podcasts today. I'm going to be releasing this show as a podcast for you to download the audio version. I'm not quite sure how handy the audio version is going to be because I'll be doing a lot of explaining on screen and showing of filters and settings, but at least you can hear the commentary and the interaction. Darren Altman's in the house. Hey, just seen your comment there. Hang on. It is, where is it? Where is Darren's comment? It is there. 95.8. Yes, sounding great. All that kind of stuff. So I can't wait to get stuck into the practical session. That's going to be so good. And we're going to have lots of fun because, of course, the 1980s brought us great vocalists, like the vocals on any Pet Shop Boys track, the Eurythmics kind of music. I'm just trying to think of all those wonderful examples. Erasure, that kind of stuff, where we had the double voice, the pitching. Of course, we didn't have the facility of wonderful doors to work with. We had like reel-to-reel machines, and we were doing tape slap back and opening the fader of the reel-to-reel machine. You know, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be very, very exciting. Don LeBlanc says, in the 80s, I was doing productions with a C64 and Dr. T's cool sequencer. Wow, that's definitely going back, isn't it? Thank you for the comments. Keep them coming in. I'm sorry if I can't get to them all, but you can, from what I understand, do a super chat here. Super chat on YouTube. If you want to make a donation to the show, just click the $ if you're watching at youtube.com/musicradiocreative, and then you can do a super chat, and I believe it gets highlighted over here, which is really nice. And if you ask a question, I'll make sure to definitely answer it in the session. Joe Blues 14 is over on Periscope. So what are we going to cover in this session for the next hour? Well, I've got lots of things that I'm going to show you in Adobe Audition, which is not behind me right now, but I'll be bringing it up very soon. We will cover stuff like thickening out vocals. And I'm talking about vocals mainly on imaging production and bits like that, not sung vocals. We won't be working with sung today. Hey, Louis, I've just seen your comment there. You're there. Louis from Classic Rock 109. Doing really well. Loving these live streams consistently now. Every day, Monday to Friday, you can expect me at it's just gone past the hour, but top of this hour, make sure you tune in. It's good to have you there. So, yeah, lots to come. Gosh, Peter Young, sometimes I listen to your live streams traveling to and from work in the car on YouTube. Ah, that's good to know. So, well, the podcast might come in handy then. So, yeah, podcast detail coming up. I'll definitely let you know by the end of the week. If you want a link to subscribe to this in audio-only form, we will do that for you. Lee Johnson finally woke up early enough to catch the live stream. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, like I said, we're going to get into reverb. We're going to look at some of the thick reverb that we can put on vocals for imaging. Delay and pitch shift, so delaying the voice ever so slightly and pitching, so kind of slowing it down. down on the reel-to-reel and then pitching it slightly, so you'll get a really nice kind of stereo effect there. Multi-pitch shifts, so multiple voices all pitched differently, but only just slightly, so it sounds slightly different. I'll get further into that later on. Also mastering with the retro exciter, so we get that like tinny sound from the 1980s. We'll look at the tube modeled compressor in Adobe Audition, which is absolutely fantastic. In fact, it is an effect that I do not use often enough. Hey, Kettlebell, I see you there in the chat. Uptake 2 as well. Anthony Hall as well. Thank you very much. Connor Hewlett. Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you. So yeah, do chat away, and I will get to your comments. And yeah, so the tube modeled compressor is a very exciting thing to use, and I'll show you. It's not an effect I use enough, but it is good if you're doing retro style productions. Also got analog delay coming up with a bit of tape slap back. So I think it's time to just about get stuck in. Although I should say, whoa, I'm Mike Russell from musicradiocreative.com, and let's get into my screen share mode. That is musicradiocreative.com over there, by the way. That's the website. Go over there for all your voiceover needs, production libraries, bits like that. Yes, the retro exciter is very naughty. Uptake 2. Obscure Developer is in the house. Obscure Developer, what does your username mean? Does that mean you are some obscure web developer? And Kem is there. Greetings from Greece. It's nice to have you tuning in from wherever you are in the world right now. So let's get stuck into the content of this show. And I'm going to drag in a voice here from Chelsea. Chelsea is one of our popular voice artists at MRC, particularly with DJs. She does a lot of great DJ drops. Let's have a listen to what she's got to say today.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
There we go. Oh, Anthony is asking, can I play the final project from yesterday? That's a really good question. If I can find it in my content library, I will definitely get it up. If anyone remembers what the order number was from yesterday, I know that's asking a bit, but if you do and you can post it in the chat, I'll look it up. So here is Chelsea, and she's done a few takes for us, which is really nice. And I'm going to get into doing some 80s style effects on this. So let's hop into the multi-track and name that 218468. Hop in and pop Chelsea in there. So what can we do with this voice to make it sound like the 80s? First of all, let's find a good cut.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Oh, cool. Obscure Developer, what is your favorite programming language?
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
That one's quite upbeat.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Okay, we're going to go for the third take here. And obviously it's got the MRC Magic Processing on there, but I'm going to add some more bits and bobs to this track to see what we can do to 80s-ify it. So first of all, thick reverb. Let's try that out. I'll go down to my voice effects, and I do already have a studio reverb, but this is kind of a light reverb because, well, right now, at the time we are, in the musical era that we are, or the production era that we are, we tend to like our vocals very crisp and clean and high frequency and no reverb. We kind of got off that. Reverb was huge in the 80s, then it kind of really saw a big peak in the 1990s and then kind of died away when the millennium came. So let's bring reverb back. Studio reverb is a kind of very light, non-invasive reverb. Let's listen to it.
With Martin Hofland.
As you can hear, very light and non-invasive. Oh, Angular, that's cool. Yeah, our website works in Angular, which is awesome. Great language. So we've got a little bit of non-invasive reverb. I am going to actually switch that off, and I'm going to go for a thicker reverb, a bit more CPU intensive, but we can go for, as you can see, all these different types of reverb. You've got the convulsion reverb, full reverb, surround reverb. So we want to go between sort of full reverb and reverb. Let's look at all the different content we've got there. As you can see, Adobe Audition throws up a warning saying the selected effect may not be suitable for real-time playback because it's rather CPU intensive. What you can do with such effects is you can actually start pre-rendering those effects, which is often a good idea if you've got plenty of them.
With Martin Hofland.
So that's the standard reverb effect on its default settings. And I can go into reverb and I can go for the full reverb effect. And again, we get the warning and I listen to the difference. This one's nice because it's got a lot of different settings and it's going to be particularly good for our 80s sound.
With Martin Hofland.
Wow, that's huge. But we can do something to change the reverb and get it sounding just right for our 80s sweeper here. So decay time, bring that down.
With Martin Hofland.
And you'll hear no reverberation at all. That's because you've made the reverb 20 milliseconds. So you've kind of made the room really tiny and there's no reverb. Kind of like my studio. There's like sound padding all over the walls, no reverb. Put it right up to 6,000. That's 6 seconds of decay of reverb. Takes a while to render. Come on. 6,000 milliseconds. Go.
With Martin Hofland.
And it goes on and on and on and on until finally that's it. So I'm going to bring that down. Let's give it about a second of reverb.
With Martin Hofland.
Yes, Anthony, I change coffee cups every day, but I try to keep the Disney theme as much as possible.
With Martin Hofland.
Okay, pre-delay time, so we can make it tight.
With Martin Hofland.
Kind of like a shower or like a cathedral.
With Martin Hofland.
So we'll go somewhere in the middle to start with. Diffusion again, let's hear the difference.
With Martin Hofland. With Martin Hofland.
Now notice I cannot actually change the settings while I'm playing back because this is so CPU intensive.
With Martin Hofland.
So reflective is nicer because you get the kind of more ethereal reflections around you rather than absorbent where you feel like it's all being sucked into the walls of the room. So let's widen that out.
With Martin Hofland.
Notorious fisherman. I look like Uncle Freddie in the 90s. That's the best compliment I've had all day. Thank you very much for that. Blue Maroon has finally made that. Sarah Garan has finally made a live stream. Good to see you there. Do I do any vocal processing prior to the signal getting into Adobe Audition? Personally, as a voiceover artist, yes, I do. Maybe one day on the live stream I'll show you my mic chain. I've done it on the YouTube channel before at youtube.com/musicradiocreative. But yeah, my mic chain is very much about having a DBX 286S. I used to love Behringer kit. I used to use, certainly the radio stations I used to work at, I used to use Behringer all the time. I used to love Behringer's voice processors and reverb and all the flanging you could do. Again, it's difficult to mimic 1980s sounds with digital tools, but we do our best. Who Productions wants to see some 1960s audio production techniques. Hey, good idea for a new tutorial. Actually, I was watching a great documentary. It was on the BBC here in Great Britain, and it was about how the Beatles tracks were produced. Before, technology had even come on, well, forget about the Doors, before we even had real good technology. And I remember them talking about how they stitched 2 sections of Strawberry Fields together. And one was at a slightly higher pitch than the other half. So somebody literally had to invent some kind of electromagnetic device for the reel-to-reel tape machine so they could kind of slow it down, but keep it consistent. Because as you know, like we don't know what a great time we live in with Doors, where you can literally say pitch shift it or time stretch it to this amount. In the 1960s, they literally had to put a magnet next to a tape machine to get the exact pitch and, most importantly, keep it consistent. So there you go. Is it 9 a.m. EST? Yes, I felt like it was 10, but you are right, actually. Yeah, 5 hours behind. You are right. I miscalculated, Michael, so thank you for that. Sunil is there. How do I auto-tune? Oh, another good idea for a tutorial very soon. Obscure Developer has got a Behringer UMC22 with a Rode NT1-A. Very nice. Right, let's get into some of the early reflections and look at the room size. A bigger room?
With Martin Hofland.
That's a lovely thick reverb. I think I'm going to have a big room.
With Martin Hofland.
And that one's good also.
With Martin Hofland.
But that's more of a reverb that you would hear generally in a kind of modern production that was using reverb. So if we go thick.
With Martin Hofland.
Let's go in between.
With Martin Hofland.
Bit more.
With Martin Hofland.
Bit more.
With Martin Hofland.
There you go. That's feeling quite good. The dimension we can bring up.
With Martin Hofland.
And then in the middle.
With Martin Hofland.
And listen to how it affects things.
With Martin Hofland.
Oh, that's huge.
With Martin Hofland.
So let's go back down to where we were, because that was quite nice.
With Martin Hofland.
You can do the left-right location here. You can change that. So if I take that right the way down.
With Martin Hofland.
You can hear that it's all the way over in the left-hand ear.
With Martin Hofland.
And then over here.
With Martin Hofland.
It's balanced more towards the right. And we just do a subtle change like this.
With Martin Hofland.
So you can hear it kind of going around you. If you're listening in stereo right now, I believe youtube.com/musicradiocreative is the only place that carries a wonderful stereo stream. You'll be able to hear the full stuff there. High pass cutoff.
With Martin Hofland.
So as you can see, we've cut off a lot of the high frequencies. Take it down.
With Martin Hofland.
And we've got a bit. And then right down at the
With
bottom.
Martin Hofland.
And we've got the full range there. So we might want to just cut off a little bit here.
With Martin Hofland.
And then we're going to take the dry up to 100%.
With Martin Hofland.
So Chelsea is nice and present. And take this
With
out.
Martin Hofland.
I need a little bit more. Let me just bring this up.
With Martin Hofland.
That's good. And yeah, I think we're feeling pretty good with that. Let's turn the early reflections up.
With Martin Hofland.
Now I feel like we're getting our 1980s style reverb. So this is what I would say is a nicely set 1980s style reverb on the vocals.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this voice nicely and do some nice edits. So we've got a nice clean voiceover to play with, because we're not stopping here. We're adding some more bits on. What I might want to do at this stage actually is bounce this track down to a brand new track. So we'll go into multi-track, bounce to new track, selected track. And what that does is it creates me a brand new track. Let's color it differently. Let's color it kind of purpley. Or no, maybe light blue. That looks very nice indeed. Lee Johnson, wow! Thank you very much, Lee, for that's my first ever Super Chat right there. You see, if you're watching now on the live stream, that's how Super Chats appear. Wow, Lee, I am absolutely honored. Thank you. Lee says, love your tutorials. I need all the Adobe Audition help I can get. Better than any online class I have seen. Lee, you're an absolute diamond. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. And if you have any question, seeing as you've just done a sponsored super chat at youtube.com/musicradiocreative, post a question and I'll be more than happy to answer. But I'm just happy to be here and do this. So, an obscure developer. Wow. This is amazing. Thank you very much, Obscure Developer. Really, really appreciate that. Would I do a stream in the future to go through getting that strong, grisly sound you'd have with a horror narrative? Okay, or narrative, as we say here in the UK. Sorry, sometimes I go into my Americanisms. Thank you, Obscure Developer, and let me write that down in my diary so I can get something scheduled up. I will, of course, do something around horror at Halloween, but of course we're a little far away from Halloween at the moment, so I'm going to do horror narrative. Can I do something on that? Yes, I will make sure that I schedule in the near future something about doing that. That will be a fun one to do. And Lee, thank you very much for the super chat. If you have a topic you'd like me to cover, maybe on a future stream, as you've just done a super chat yourself, let me know, and we'll schedule an hour on one of these sessions to cover your topic of choice in detail too. Right, Ibrahim's there as well. Do I allow internees? Do we allow them at MRC? Absolutely. We're always looking for production talent. Send us your audio. That's the best thing you can do. Right, we've got the bounce track here. Let's solo it.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage.
And I see what's happened there. We have not got our reverb settings bounced there. It has only bounced the processing and the presets that I have on this track. So that's not to worry, because what I can do is I can take what I've got so far. Let me explain to you what's happened with that particular situation. So when you heard this original, and I play this back.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage.
So you can hear the reverb, but then you're probably wondering why when I bounce down,
Playing the
I lost the reverb. So I have bounced down essentially all of those wonderful processing presets I have, but I did not bounce down the voice effects bus, which has full reverb. So that's not to worry, because I can actually put this onto the voice effects bus down below. That's a very simple way. You just choose the output master here, the arrow pointing to the left, and you go to bus, voice effects. And I can go into further detail about how and why you'd set up voice buses. But essentially it's a set of effects that you're applying to every vocal track you've got in the multi-track. And now if I solo that,
Playing the
yeah, we got our reverb back. Now, the reason I bounced it is because I wanted to keep the effects I've done so far without the reverb, and I wanted to go ahead and add on something rather nice. That is the tube modeled compressor. Hi, Julio at facebook.com/musicradiocreative. Good to see you watching there at Facebook Live. And we're glad to make jingles for your radio station. That's very kind of you to say. So tube modeled compressor. Remember, this already has a lot of compression on. As you can see here, it's quite a flat line. It's not sausage-like, but it's getting there. If I go into effects and then amplitude and compression, something that I think audio producers in today's age do not use enough, that is the tube modeled compressor. And as you've guessed, it's kind of a vintage, shall we say 1980s, effect for the voice. It doesn't do much in the way of kind of really moving the voice around or making it stereo. It simply is a compressor. So let me show you what we got here on the screen. We got threshold. Anyone who's familiar with compressors will know what threshold is. That is the point at which you want the compressor to kick in. So is it going to be -1 dB, or is it going to be, minus 20 is usually a setting I'd go for, around about here. You can also do it on the slider. The slider up here is a little handier for moving the threshold. Output gain, that's to boost the signal of the compressor. Once you've added your compression, usually the waveform will get a bit quieter. Anthony Hall, thank you very much for the super chat up there. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I take your recorded streams, play them on another monitor, and practice the technique for that day. Anthony, that is the best way to learn, and really, really appreciate the super chat. Awesome stuff. I'm really glad that it's helping as well. And yeah, absolutely, you can play it back and practice along. That's the best way, because you can get the replays. YouTube, Facebook have them. You can get them on Periscope, although I wouldn't advise it. Because over on Periscope, everything is so tiny. You probably can't even see the chat on Periscope. Sorry about that. Even though Fantastic Radio UK has just joined at Periscope, most people tend to discover it, join in there, and then head over to YouTube. YouTube, in my opinion right now, and I hate to say this, Facebook, and Facebook gods, please love me, but please make your streams stereo, because at the moment they only support mono streams. YouTube supports a stereo stream, so if you really want to hear all the effects going on, youtube.com/musicradiocreative, and hit subscribe there. So yeah, we're on output gain, so turning it up a bit after you've added the compressor. Ratio, how harsh do you want it to crank? So usually I go for a ratio of usually around 3:1, but we can go as harsh as 5:1. I'll demonstrate how that all works in a second. Back to 1:1, which if you have your ratio on a compressor set at 1:1, it will do nothing. It's basically saying do no compression, and then attack and release. So let's look at this compressor in action now by bringing up the preview window on Chelsea's Voice. And I'm going to start adding some bits on. So first of all, I'm going to go in and take this so that I've got the ratio at 3:1. That'll make it work. Doesn't have any effect yet because I need to choose the threshold I would like my compressor to kick in at. The threshold, you're simply saying at what point in the audio peaking do you want the compressor to say, I'm going to start having an effect on this now and crushing it for you. So if I look at, if you look at the ruler over here on the right-hand side of your waveform, you'll see I've got some spikes coming up at -3 dB. So what happens if I put the threshold to -3 dB, which is very light for a compressor? Watch those spikes. Okay, not much. Not much has happened there. Subtle, very subtle changes, particularly on this bit here. Very subtle, but not much. So if I bring it down to -10, let's see how that affects things. Now you start to see a difference. Do you see that? So it has started kicking in at -10, which is about here. So it started compressing along this area here. And again, this area here, you can see now the vocals are getting compressed down. -20, and we really start to see some compression. Watch the preview window. Look at that. Wow, how compressed is that? So now we have a threshold of -20 and a ratio of 3:1. This is going to sound quite 1980s style compressed.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Actually, that's a thing of beauty. That's a thing of beauty. I might start using the tube model compressor as opposed to the normal dynamics processing. I don't use it enough that I didn't realize how good it sounds. That's why I love doing these live sessions with you, because I'm learning as well. There are things that I don't know that playing and going by, often you give good advice in the live chats as well. It's just amazing to learn. So we got Lee, who would love to see something about audio for YouTube channels, something like making 5 to 10 second voiceovers with music for transition between subject matter. Okay, so we're looking at YouTube. Yeah, YouTube audio. I guess you're talking about like bumpers and jingles for YouTube. That is something I can definitely cover, and something I've been working on myself recently. If you've been in before the live stream begins, or if you hang around afterwards, you'll notice I have a top and tail, a countdown and an outro. Very important, I've learnt from my very little live streaming experience so far, to have an intro and outro. When I first started experimenting with live streaming a couple of weeks ago now, I was just hitting go and then waiting for all the lights to say live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and sitting here and like, hi! And then always on one channel it would cut off, so it would be halfway through. Hi! And welcome to the stream. So having a countdown kind of mitigates that. So yeah, I can go through like intros, outros, bumpers for YouTube channels. Definitely. Anthony Hall, if you have a topic, as you've been a wonderful super chat sponsor of this particular live session, I'd be happy to do one, so just let me know. So Lee, great. Good to hear. I will definitely do that in a future stream. Right, our tube model compressor sounding good on Chelsea.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage.
Look at attack. If we take attack down to 0, it's going to start really attacking. Did you notice what happened there? Let me put it back to 10 milliseconds, which is a good setting, by the way. And you'll see, can you see the little spikes? So if I'll try and highlight a little spike here. That's a little spike, yeah? A little spike. But if I take it down to 0, it looks a little more sort of like faded in, okay? And, well, let me show you the example. So this is it with attack at 0.
This.
And then we'll go to attack 10.
This.
Can you hear how the start of the word this is just a little more pronounced with a little bit of leeway for attack there?
This.
And what I did actually during that example is I turned the attack right up to 144, which hardly had any effect because the compressor didn't kick in. So we're going to go for 10 attack, and again, if I bring the release right down to 0, watch what happens. You see you get all spiky there because it's...
This is Mixage.
And you've got that kind of wobbly...
This is Mixage.
because you're kind of really punching into the compressor, so not necessarily a good thing, but we could probably get away with 50 milliseconds.
This is Mixage.
Sounding good to my ears. Now I will turn this up by about 6 dB. Probably a little bit too high, a little bit over-enthusiastic. 3 dB, and apply. That is the tube modeled compressor.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland. Playing the...
Absolutely. Cado's right there in the chat. Female voiceovers tend to cut through more cleanly in the mid-range. It's why they used them during the war for communications. Interesting. And also female voices tend to be more friendly and loving, right? Rather than a stern male voice during the war. Just a guess. So we've done the tube modeled compressor. Now let's listen to what we've got here with the vocal reverb.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with...
And that's sounding really good already. Bearing in mind, we started out with something like this.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Ibrahim's in Uganda, wants to do an internship. Yeah, absolutely. Send us the audio you've got and we'll take a listen.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Sounding really good. So now we have got that smooth kind of 1980s feel to the vocals. I might go for some pitch shifting. I might end up with some tape slap, but we'll do that on the final mix. Now I'm going to cut, and do my little fade envelopes here. Here we go. Anthony is planning on streaming a 2-hour live Smooth Grooves show on YouTube and Facebook. I tell you what, I'm so into live streaming. It's brilliant. I love it so much. Focuses on recording high-quality voiceover tracks and produced sweeps. Excellent. Well, yeah, absolutely. You can definitely cover more on those topics. If you'd like something very specific covered, Anthony, anything in particular, do let me know.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves.
Okay, that's sounding good now. We want to go for, let's go for a multi-pitch shift here. And what I'm going to do is pop out a few new tracks here. So let's add some mono tracks here, because we don't need them to be stereo, because the bus makes the reverb stereo.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves.
And I'm going to take this part of it, and I'm going to do a little bit of tape slap here in the multi-track. There is actually an effect for this in the waveform view, but you can have something like this.
This is Mixage.
Maybe a bit more.
This is Mixage.
Let's take it off solo.
This.
Whoa, that's too much.
This is Mixage.
Okay, so we're kind of doubling up our tracks here. I'm just going to put them into the voice effects bus as well here. Voice effects.
This is Mixage.
Now we've got something interesting here. Mike, you have a large spike in the multi-track around 6.8 seconds. Oh, around there. How do you mitigate that? Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we've kind of allowed that to pop out a little bit. That is very spiky, isn't it? Yeah, so what is happening when I'm normalizing to that spike. There's a quick fix that I might go for here. If it's a tiny spike, what I will tend to do is like zoom right in, like laser focus like this, and I'll actually I'll take that spike down a bit using the HUD control here in waveform, and then I'll just play it back to make sure it doesn't sound abnormal. But then I'm kind of reducing the aggressiveness of these spikes without doing too much else. So this is a very quick fix kind of way. So I don't think it's affected the audio at all.
With Martin Hope.
It hasn't, but I can still see it's a little bit spiky. This is an excellent question. Hi to Alejandro in Argentina. Diego is in the house as well. So let's just grab these bits here. Turn them down ever so slightly. Because we're zooming right in and we're literally changing the amplitude on microseconds, it doesn't affect the overall mix.
With Martin Hofland.
Still a bit spiky, so again, I'm going to isolate the spiky area just around here. Just around there, isn't it? And ever so slightly, it's like doing kind of surgery on the voice now. Just bring it in a bit. Now notice how that hasn't affected the sound at all.
With Martin Hofland. With Martin Hofland.
There's no audible kind of difference.
With Martin Hofland.
But we've eliminated that spike. So that's probably the first thing I would do. The other thing I would do is play around with the compressor settings in the first case. But if I want to do a quick fix like that, then I can go into favorites, normalize, and you'll see we get a bit more juice, a bit more room out of that. So quick fix.
With Martin Hofland.
And you don't notice anything. Cato, thank you very much for the super chat. You are awesome. Wow, fantastic. Good stuff. Thank you. And if there's anything I can do for you on a future tutorial, do let me know. Marius, I get all the time spikes like that. How can I avoid them? Compression, Marius, is definitely going to help you. But yeah, as you can see, a quick fix like that has kind of killed that spike and allowed me to normalize even more. So now we've got this here. This is the slapback.
This is Mixage.
It's a bit loud, and as you can see, it's definitely peaking. So I'm going to take these tracks down, the extra tracks. And what I'm going to do...
This is Mixage.
I could probably go down further. So let's go down -10 and -10 on the doubled up tracks here.
This is Mixage.
And we just got a little bit of slapback now that we're doing manually.
This is Mixage.
As if you got like a reel-to-reel playing the echo back.
This is Mixage.
And then if you're listening in stereo at youtube.com/musicradiocreative, this one's panning to the left now, this one's panning to the right.
This is Mixage.
That sounds nice. Actually, I can probably bring that slightly further up in the mix now.
This is Mixage.
The overall mix is definitely clipping, so let's turn the master down.
This is Mixage.
So we're starting to get a nice slapback effect. Then I'll go on to both of these tracks and I'll add the pitch shifter to both of the tracks. Set it to 0. And the same with this one. We've got a pitch shifter. Cato's pledged €5 to a bank account of my choice if I promise not to sing today. I have a terrible habit of singing. So, yeah, no singing happening in this live stream. Louis, thank you. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Awesome. Wow. Really nice stuff. Louis, if there's anything I can cover for you, I'm literally writing down these ideas as you let me know them. So I will be scheduling up my forthcoming live streams based on the feedback you give me, and any super chats will get a stream dedicated to them. So I can do, I've got horror narratives coming up, YouTube audio branding and bumps. Tomorrow on the live stream, by the way, if you're going to be tuning in on Thursday between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. UK time, whatever that is in your time zone, I'll be covering noise gate, basically a whole technique and tutorial on noise gating audio and why it's important to reduce noise but not reduce quality. I've seen multiple tutorials when I often look around myself at what others are doing on places like YouTube, and I see often people saying, use the noise, the sound remover or the noise reducer to get rid of sort of ambient background noise when you're not talking. And I kind of bang my head against my hand and think, no, use a noise gate. So I want to do an hour on noise gates tomorrow. That's tomorrow's session. But yeah, as I say, plenty more of your suggestions going to be featured on the live stream in the coming weeks. Darren, thanks for the hashtag mad skills up there. Really appreciate you. Right, so let's get into the pitch shifting on both of these channels here. Time and pitch shift. Again, setting that to 0. And we're going to go in and we are going to have some fun with the pitch shifter by popping down 2 triangles here and popping on the envelopes. So we're looking for pitch shifter, transpose ratio, pitch shifter, transpose ratio, and then we're going to just ever so slightly transpose the ratio. We're not doing like a demon voice. So if I pull this all the way down to the bottom, it's going to be like this.
This is Mixage.
And you can probably hear Chelsea sounding like a demon in the background. Thank you, Obscure Developer, for the super chap. Wow. Super chap. you are a super chap. Or chapess. I don't know, because you don't have your name there, but you might be a guy or a girl. But you say, do you do work for games? And if so, where can I contact you in relation to that? It's for a psychological horror game. Whoa. That sounds exciting. Yes, of course. Absolutely. Best place to go is musicradiocreative.com. If you hop in there, you can kind of see what we do at a glance if you just look over at the site there and see what we've got available, like ordering voiceovers and bits like that. But if you want something a little bit more custom, then definitely go into more and contact us. And we've got all our contact details there on the website as well. Get in touch, and if you let me know your real name, I'll make sure that I, Isabella, or the team look out for you, so that we can know that you've come from the YouTube live stream. There you go. Isabella is in on the live stream, taking care of things. She's managing the ship and managing the live chat. My goodness, right? I better get down to this then. So.
This is Mixaja.
That has gone rather a bit too deep, so I'm ever so slightly going to pitch shift this. Let's just listen on solo to this.
This is Mixaja.
You hear how that's pitch shifted down from this?
This is Mixaja.
Pop it together and you get this.
This is Mixaja. This is Mixaja.
Yeah, definitely ask for Darren on the Music Radio Creative site. Awesome chap. And then we're going to go over to solo on this one and solo these off. And we haven't got anything yet on this voice, so I'm going to transpose the ratio ever so slightly up.
This is Mixaja.
And she sounds a little bit like a Barbie doll now, doesn't she?
This is Mixaja.
Okay, and then pop those two stereo tracks together.
This is Mixaja.
And then all of the tracks together.
This is Mixaja with Martin Hofland.
There we go. So we're getting our 80s style drop.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixaja with Martin Hofland.
The pacing isn't quite right, so I'm just going to pull that in a bit.
This is Mixaja with Martin Hofland.
Maybe a bit more.
This is Mixaja with Martin Hofland. Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixaja with Martin Hofland.
Just have an idea here. Let's hop over into Logic for a second and pop in a little instrument. Logic actually is my second favorite DAW now for doing musical stuff. Adobe Audition all the way for creation and editing. But Logic helps me get little musical bits. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to put in a MIDI region and go in here. And let's go for 80s FM bass attack to start with. Okay. And let's have a listen on loop to what we've got here. Oh, that's like there's something inside so strong, isn't there, that FM piano? Quite like the fizzy synth. That's quite nice. Okay, I'm just going to make the MIDI region a little larger and make that note really long. Okie dokie. And we'll bring it out to there and we'll render that out of Logic. Export. Where are we? Selection as audio file. AIFF. I love that Apple work in AIFF. I'm considering, by the way, as I'm going to release the podcast very soon, I'm definitely thinking about changing from MP3 to M4A. As I don't know if you heard recently, the MP3 they dropped their licensing on the thing. I don't think MP3s are going to die, but I heard that MP3 is a kind of it's done. They've finished. They've closed the doors and switched off the lights. And M4A seems to be the up and coming new choice for podcast format. Although none of the podcast hosts generally support M4A, so not sure if I should go there yet. Right. Oh, where did I render that? Let's try again. Let's pop it into downloads instead. Then I know where it is. Right, back to Audition, and we'll bring in that synth over here. Even though this is going to be a dry jingle.
with Martin Hoffland.
Let's take those off solo. Okay. So, remember I did the vocoding tutorial yesterday on the live stream? If I go over to my bounce here and copy that, let's just see if we can do a little subtle 80s effect. Where's my AIF? That's it. Let's do what I did yesterday for the vocoding, mix paste, and I'm modulating with the synth here. Let's see how it sounds. Might be a good idea, might not. Okay, there's just a little bit. For some reason, when you modulate in Adobe Audition, you get a little bit of the. Yes. Okay, I'm going to copy this to a new track, paste it, normalize it, and then we'll just pop that there, and maybe completely get rid of that. And that's going to be a bit too loud, so I'm going to turn it right down.
With Martin.
And mute the original track. Here we go.
With Martin Hoffland.
Can't hear anything yet.
With Martin Hoffland.
That's kind of almost giving us a synthy distortion there.
With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland.
And
with Martin Hoffland.
Just checking, I feel quite happy with that.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland. Ultimate 80s dance grooves.
80s dance grooves. I'm so tempted to stutter, but I know really stuttering is not really an 80s thing. So I'm just going to move this down now to our flanger track. And I'm going to go quite wide. I'm going to set the flanger up differently to how I usually have it.
80s dance grooves. 80s dance grooves. 80s dance grooves. 80s dance grooves.
That's sounding nice.
80s dance. 80s dance grooves. 80s dance grooves.
So initial delay time, final delay time, big difference there, making it nice and stereo. Stereo phasing virtually in the center at 180.
80s dance grooves.
Feedback up.
80s dance grooves.
And that's the kind of thing you'd get if you faded up the reel to reel and there wasn't much delay. It would be like...
80s dance grooves. 80s dance grooves.
That's a one for when we do the alien tutorial.
80s dance grooves.
But no aliens right now.
80s dance grooves. 80s dance grooves.
Bit further down.
80s dance grooves.
No, even further. Let's do 0.5 on the modulation.
80s dance grooves.
Simulating tape flange. Indeed, Don. That's right. Right, okay, so...
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. Playing...
I don't like the flow and the amplitude of that. Turning it down.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves.
That's a sort of awkward pause there. Sometimes you can't quite put your finger on it. You just need to...
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
Too much on the distortion at the end.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is...
And then I'm going to bring this all in a bit.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
Then I am going to mix that down, multi-track mix down session to file, like so. Jumba is late, but here in Uganda. Good to have you there, Jumba. Thanks for tuning in. So we've got something that's looking quite nice there, but we can do one more effect. We can go into effects. Actually, we can do two more. We have got the wonderful delay and echo. Again, I tend to use delay and echo a lot, but not analog delay. Analog delay, again, is great for your 80s. You've got tape and tube, or analog delay. Let's listen to the differences.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance group with Martin Hoffland.
Let's go to like 50s slapback.
With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland.
So you can hear how immediately that's sounding. You've got that analog sound. Turning the dry down.
With Martin Hoffland.
Let's just focus on the wet output for the moment of this wonderful analog delay.
With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland.
You can increase the delay.
With Martin.
It's a bit too much. Bring it
With
down.
Martin Hoffland.
Up a bit
With
more.
Martin Hoffland.
Feedback.
With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland.
The infinity loop.
With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland.
Trash it
With Martin.
or
With
not.
Martin Hoff. With Martin Hoffland.
And the spread.
With Martin Hoffland.
Oh, that's beautiful in stereo. Look, down at 0%.
With Martin Hoffland.
Thank you, Spotted Lion. Thank you to our Russian viewer. Sorry, I do not know how to pronounce your name. Maybe you can help me with that. So, yeah, we're spreading it out. If you're watching now at youtube.com/musicradiocreative, do give me a subscribe if you haven't done so already so you can get notified of future streams at exactly this time every single day, Monday to Friday. That is my commitment to you to bring you a live stream until I'm going to keep going till at least mid-August. But if it turns out this is something you like, then of course I will continue it for much longer. Right, so now we've got something that's sounding all
With
right.
Martin Hoff.
If you're listening in stereo, when I do this,
With Martin Hoffland.
that's beautiful. You might actually want to put some headphones
With
on.
Martin Hoffland.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, and then we'll bring the dry back in again. So back to 100.
With Martin Hoffland.
Bring it
With
down.
Martin Hoffland.
Bring the delay up.
With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland. With Martin Hoffland.
Hey Lee, thank you very much. Super happy to be the first super chat. Need to go soon, but have a great day. That is Lee on the super chat. You have not only been my first super chat ever, but you've super chatted me twice in one live stream. I am absolutely honored, Lee. Thank you for joining me. Where are you watching from in the world? I'm really curious to know just before you drop off. But actually, I'm about to drop off in just under 9 minutes as well. So not too long to go on this particular tutorial.
With Martin Hoffland.
And I've got an effect I like there now from the analog delay.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
Okay, no, I'm not happy with that. I'm going to undo it, and I'm going to go back in and try again. It's just I felt it made things too busy. So let's bring the wet down so it's a little more subtle. Let's have a listen.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
That's much better. Something to remember, if you are ever playing with effects like this one, the analog delay or reverb or anything, you usually have a dry and a wet. Dry is just the vocal output and wet is the actual effect. So if you feel that an effect you are putting on is too overpowering, take the wet down to like 12% or 20% and it will get a lot less. It's good for reverb. Lee in Arizona, USA. Thank you for watching today, Lee. Spotted Lion is in Barbados. Wonderful. West Indies. So nice to have you there. I'm going to apply that and I'll do my final effect on this one right now. And that is going to be effects. Remember, I have demonstrated on a live stream this week the mastering effect. And I'm going to show you here how it looks. Very different, actually, already with the preset. A little bit of subtle EQ correction. Let's take everything else off for the moment. Even the Widener can go down to 0. Loudness maximizer off. Output gain 0. So it's just the EQ now. Let's listen.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
I might add in some more low on the mastering here.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland. Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
And I'm going to introduce the tape exciter here. Again, another 1980s effect we have access to in Adobe Audition. And I'm just going to start bringing it up as I play back the audio.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage.
So you get that wonderful kind of tinny, sizzly tape sound in your ears as I turn that up.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hoffland.
And we're going to stick around.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Yeah, we're going to stick around 55% on the Exciter. A great final touch you can put there to your finished production. Nice to see where you're from, actually. Thanks for posting in the comments. We got Teddington, UK, Toronto, Canada. We got Belgium as well, Bristol in England. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. We got Naki on facebook.com/Music Radio Creative. Good to see you there. We're also on Twitch and Periscope as well. So do feel free to get involved wherever you happen to be watching right now. So just finally, I can actually play with a stereo Widener. This is going to sound quite interesting, especially as you could see in the multitrack, I did a lot of stereo effects on this. It should make a dramatic difference.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
So you can hear when I take the Widener down to -100, it goes to mono, but when I go up to +100, you get very stereo, but also it starts to clip. So I'm going to need to take the output gain down just a little bit like so. Let's see what we can do right now with that. That's looking about right. And I also, you can see like a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of clipping there as well on the overall voiceover, which is interesting to me.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
Take that.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves.
That's enough for me. Loudness maximizer probably won't need any of that.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance.
No, that's way too much. Jacksonville, Florida, Anthony, obscure developer in Ireland, and Louis in Cincinnati, Ohio. Wow. Wissam Dine says, perfect. Thanks a lot for the tutorial. My absolute pleasure. We can try and add a bit more reverb, but we've already done that. Let's try it.
Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland. Playing the ultimate 80s dance grooves. This is Mixage with Martin Hofland.
And there we go. There is our 80s vocal production. There is so much more you can do, and I will be covering a lot of your requests in the upcoming streams on this time, Monday to Friday, at youtube.com/Music Radio Creative, also Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch. So in this session, we have learnt reverb for thickening out voiceovers. We've also learnt about delaying and pitch shifting different tracks, putting them on left and right to get this kind of effect.
This is Mixage.
We have learnt a little bit about the retro exciter for the final mix to give it that tinny 80s sound. We've also done the tube modelled compressor and a bit of analog delay to give a slap back, along with a full master of the 80s sound. You feel the middle sentence voiceover clashes a little bit. That's a good point, Mark.
This is Mixage.
A little clashy. In what kind of way? Give me an example of how I could maybe alter it or change it. I would love to have a play with it. Maybe off the stream and just tweak it around a little bit more. Lots of other chats. Farron, which mic do I use? Audio-Technica 804033. I will have a resources page up actually with the gear that I have here in the studio, so you can just go to one place and find out everything I use, because I know that's a question a lot of people like to ask. But yeah, 1980s style production. Have some fun with this. There is plenty floating around in Adobe Audition that's kind of tucked away in the little secret hidden Easter eggs. So really it is a case of playing, working in the multi-track to work out what sounds good for you. But you can create something amazing and something that sounds very retro. I'm sure we'll do a 90s audio production tutorial at some point. Also coming up, we've got horror narratives as well, especially for obscure developer. YouTube audio branding and bumpers, we'll be covering that too, and much, much more. Tomorrow on the live stream between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. UK time, you can hear all about noise gating and how to protect those pesky noise getting in wherever you're using audio. So if you're recording a podcast and you have a noisy computer fan, I'll show you how to get rid of that. I'll also show you how to eliminate noises from voiceover sessions. It's even good for cutting out breaths at certain levels if the voiceover hasn't put any compression on and the breaths are quite light. So noise gating, something we can really get stuck into on the live stream, and I'm looking forward to that. Meanwhile, thank you so much for all the super chats today. Lee Johnson, Obscure Developer, Louis Riviera, Caddo Bell, Anthony Hall, Obscure Developer, Lee Johnson again. Really wonderful to see those super chats today. Thank you very much. Very encouraging for me to continue producing those videos. It does help me to keep this stream going on a daily basis and prepare new stuff for you. I am just about to get out of here, but remember, you can find out more over at musicradiocreative.com. I'll be very excited to bring you more stuff very soon. And like I say, if you have any requests, do send them in to me. If you do a super chat and you're watching on the live stream, I will guarantee to get your request covered in an upcoming session as well. So thanks Uptake 2, thanks Anthony Hall, thanks everyone who's been there in the live chat. Thank you to the Facebook team as well. Martin Brannan saying brilliant tutorial, really thorough. Thanks from Inverness in Scotland. Lovely to have you there. And yeah, it's been an absolute joy. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next live stream.